The house was silent except for the soft hum of the baby monitor. A faint night light cast a warm glow over the nursery where 6-month-old Noah lay still in his crib. His tiny chest rose and fell, his breathing steady, but his legs remained motionless, just as they had for months. No kicking, no wiggling toes, no sign of movement. The doctors had told his parents, Olivia and Ryan, that there was nothing they could do. Noah's paralysis had no clear cause, no cure in sight. Outside the nursery, Olivia sat curled up on the couch, gripping the baby blanket she hadn't washed in weeks. It still smelled like Noah's newborn scent, a reminder of the little boy who once stretched his legs freely and reached for her with eager hands. Tears welled in her eyes as she glanced at Ryan, who sat beside her, staring blankly at the floor. "I don't know how much more I can take," Olivia whispered, her voice barely audible, as if she was afraid to admit it out loud. "I keep thinking, what if this is it? What if he never moves again?" Ryan exhaled slowly, rubbing a hand over his face. "We have to keep hoping," he said, but even he sounded unsure. Hope was getting harder to hold on to. At their feet, their golden retriever puppy, Milo, lifted his head. His ears perked up, his eyes darting between his owners and the nursery door. He had always been drawn to Noah, staying by his crib as if he understood that something was wrong. Tonight, though, something was different. Milo's body was tense, his tail still. He wasn't just lying near Noah, he was watching him. Olivia noticed but brushed it off. "At least he loves Noah," she murmured. I wish love was enough to fix this." But what no one knew was that love was about to do something extraordinary, something that would leave them in disbelief, something that would change their lives forever. The night stretched on, quiet and heavy. Olivia and Ryan remained on the couch, too exhausted to talk but too restless to sleep. The weight of uncertainty pressed down on them. Every day had become a cycle of doctor visits, research, and prayers that seemed to go unanswered. In the nursery, Noah slept peacefully, unaware of the pain his parents carried. His small hands rested near his chest, fingers curled slightly. His legs, however, remained motionless, just as they had for months. Milo lay beside the crib, his warm brown eyes fixed on Noah. He had been like this for weeks, refusing to leave the baby's side. At first, Olivia and Ryan thought it was just instinct, an innocent bond between a puppy and a child. But lately, Milo's behavior had changed. He wasn't just keeping Noah company. He was watching over him, almost as if he was waiting for something. That night, the waiting turned into something else. Milo suddenly stood up, his ears twitching. He paced in small circles near the crib, glancing at Noah, then at the door, then back again. Something was making him restless. His usual calm demeanor had been replaced by something urgent, something Olivia and Ryan didn't yet understand. Then, without warning, Milo placed his front paws on the edge of the crib and let out a low whimper. He nudged the bars with his nose, then looked back toward the door as if trying to get someone's attention. In the living room, Olivia heard it. She sat up, brow furrowed. "Did you hear that?" she asked, turning to Ryan. He nodded, already pushing himself up from the couch. "Yeah, it sounded like Milo." They both hurried toward the nursery, their hearts pounding. Not with fear, but with something else, something they couldn't name yet. When they reached the doorway, they saw Milo standing on his hind legs, pressing his nose against the crib's bars. He let out another soft whimper, his tail wagging ever so slightly. But what caught Olivia's attention wasn't just Milo's behavior. It was Noah. Noah's fingers twitched. It was barely noticeable, just the slightest movement, but Olivia saw it. Her breath caught in her throat. "Ryan," she whispered, gripping his arm. "Look at his hand." Ryan's eyes widened. They both froze, watching. Then it happened again. A tiny, delicate movement. Noah's fingers curled and uncurled, as if responding to something unseen. For the first time in months, Olivia felt something she hadn't dared to feel in a long time. Hope. Olivia's breath hitched as she clutched Ryan's arm tighter, her eyes locked on Noah's tiny hand. The movement was small, barely noticeable, but it was real. For months, they had watched their son lie still, doctors telling them the same thing over and over. There was nothing they could do. But now, right in front of them, his fingers twitched again, this time more deliberate, more certain, as if something inside him was waking up. Ryan stepped closer to the crib, his voice barely above a whisper. "Noah!" He reached out, his hands trembling. He was afraid to hope, but desperate to believe. The baby's eyes remained closed, his breathing steady, his body still, except for that one tiny movement. Milo let out another soft whimper, pressing his head against the crib as if he knew this moment was important. His tail wagged slow but certain, his presence unwavering. "Noah, baby, can you hear us?" Olivia knelt beside the crib, brushing her fingers against her son's hand, needing to feel it for herself. Then it happened again. Noah's fingers curled slightly around Olivia's hand. His touch was weak, but it was undeniable. A sharp gasp left her lips as she turned to Ryan, tears already welling in her eyes. "Did you see that?" Ryan nodded, his own eyes wide, his expression torn between shock and overwhelming emotion. "I saw it," he whispered, swallowing hard. "I saw it." For a moment, the world around them faded. The months of helplessness, the sleepless nights spent searching for answers, the exhaustion that had become a part of their daily lives, all of it blurred into the background. Right now, all that mattered was that their son, who had been lifeless for so long, was moving. Milo let out a small bark, his excitement growing. He lifted his front paws and gently nudged the crib's bars again, his bright eyes never leaving Noah. It was almost as if he knew there was more to come. And then, just as Olivia was about to call for a doctor, just as Ryan was about to pull out his phone to record the moment, Noah's entire hand lifted. Slow, shaky, but with a strength they hadn't seen in months. A sob broke from Olivia's throat as she covered her mouth, unable to believe what she was seeing. Ryan let out a sharp breath, his hands gripping the edge of the crib like he needed to steady himself. Noah's fingers wiggled again, his hand stretching toward Milo, as if he somehow knew the little puppy had been there all along, waiting for him, watching over him, never giving up on him. And then, for the first time in months, Noah's legs twitched. It was barely a movement, just the smallest shift beneath the blanket. But it was real. It was happening. The weight of the moment hung heavy in the nursery. Olivia and Ryan could hardly believe what they had just witnessed. For months, they had prayed for even the slightest sign of improvement, and now, in the quiet glow of the nightlight, their son had moved. Not just a twitch, not just an accidental reflex, but an undeniable movement, a purposeful lift of his tiny hand and a small but significant twitch of his legs. Milo remained at the crib's side, his tail wagging in slow, excited beats, as if he too understood the significance of what had just happened. He let out a soft whimper and pressed his nose against the bars of the crib, never taking his eyes off Noah. It was almost as if he had been waiting for this moment all along, as if he had known before anyone else that tonight would be different. Ryan was the first to break the stunned silence. He let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding, his voice trembling as he spoke. "Liv, this isn't just some random movement. This is real. He's responding." Olivia wiped at the tears streaking down her face, nodding but still too overwhelmed to form words. Instead, she reached for Noah's tiny hand again, her fingers barely grazing his palm. And then, as if he recognized her touch, Noah's fingers curled slightly around hers. A sob broke from Olivia's throat as she clutched his hand tighter, pressing his tiny fingers against her own. Ryan's hand trembled as he pulled out his phone, fumbling with the camera app, needing to capture the moment. "We need to show this to the doctors. They said it was impossible, but look at him." But Olivia barely heard him. She was too focused on Noah, on the way his tiny fingers flexed and stretched in her grasp, on the almost imperceptible shift of his legs beneath the blanket. "Noah, baby, can you hear us?" she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Noah's eyelids fluttered slightly, but he didn't wake. Still, Olivia knew in her heart that he was responding. He was waking up, piece by piece, moment by moment. Milo let out another excited whimper, shifting his paws against the crib bars as if urging Noah to keep going. His bright, intelligent eyes darted between Olivia and Ryan, then back to the baby. And then it happened again. Noah's leg moved. Not a twitch this time, a real, undeniable movement. A slow, shaky stretch beneath the blanket. Olivia gasped, her free hand flying to her mouth as she turned to Ryan. "Did you see that?" Ryan nodded rapidly, his expression torn between shock and joy. "I saw it, Liv." He moved his leg. Tears streamed freely down Olivia's face. "Oh my God, Ryan! He's coming back to us!" For the first time in months, Olivia felt something other than helplessness. She felt hope. Not just the fragile hope she had clung to during long, sleepless nights, but real, tangible hope. Milo let out a bark, soft, excited, urging. Olivia reached down, running her fingers through the puppy's fur. "You knew, didn't you?" she murmured. "You never gave up on him." Milo nuzzled against her touch before turning his attention back to Noah. His tail wagged faster, his whole body vibrating with excitement. Ryan exhaled sharply and straightened. "We need to call someone. A doctor. They need to see this." Olivia hesitated. For months, she had longed for medical intervention, for someone to tell them there was hope. But now, as she knelt beside Noah's crib, she wasn't ready to pull away, to let someone else take control. This was their moment. A private miracle unfolding right before their eyes. "Not yet," she whispered. "Let's just be here. Let's just watch him." Ryan swallowed hard, then nodded. He sank onto the floor beside Olivia, one arm around her shoulder as they both watched their son with wonder. Noah stirred again, his tiny fingers flexing, his legs shifting with more certainty now. A faint sound escaped his lips, a soft whimper, barely more than a breath. And then, his eyelids fluttered open. A strangled sob broke from Olivia's throat. "Oh, my baby!" she whispered, brushing a trembling hand over his cheek. Noah blinked up at them, his deep brown eyes hazy with sleep but filled with the innocence and curiosity they had once known so well. He looked at Olivia, then at Ryan, his tiny lips parting in a sleepy murmur. And then, as if sensing something else, his gaze shifted. Straight to Milo. The golden retriever let out another soft bark, his tail wagging so hard it thumped against the floor. Noah's tiny fingers twitched, then stretched, reaching in Milo's direction. His motions were still weak, but they were purposeful. Ryan let out a choked laugh, his eyes glassy with tears. "He knows him," he whispered. "Liv, he knows Milo." Olivia let out a broken sob of joy. "Of course he does." She had always known that Milo and Noah shared a special bond. From the moment they had brought the puppy home, he had been drawn to their son, refusing to leave his side. When doctors had told them Noah's paralysis might be permanent, it had been Milo who had stayed by the crib, keeping vigil as if waiting for the day Noah would prove them wrong. And now, somehow, he had. Noah's fingers stretched again, this time making contact with the soft golden fur of Milo's ear. The puppy pressed closer, letting Noah's tiny fingers curl into his fur. Ryan let out a shaky breath. "This is a miracle." Olivia could only nod. Because deep down, she knew the truth. This wasn't just medical progress. This wasn't just luck. This was love. Love that had come in the form of a golden retriever puppy who had never stopped believing in Noah, even when the world told them to give up. Love that had wrapped around them even in their darkest moments. Love that had led them here, to this impossible, incredible moment. As Olivia cradled Noah's tiny hand in hers, she turned to Milo, her heart swelling with gratitude. "You saved him," she whispered. Milo simply wagged his tail, curling up beside the crib as if he already knew. And in that moment, Olivia realized something she had almost forgotten. Sometimes, miracles don't come in the ways we expect. Sometimes, they don't come from doctors or medicine or things we can understand. Sometimes, miracles come in the form of love. And sometimes, they have 4 legs and a wagging tail. The air in the nursery felt electric, charged with something neither Olivia nor Ryan could quite put into words. Their son, who for months had been motionless, was moving. His fingers, his legs, little by little, Noah was coming back to them. Milo remained at the crib, his golden fur bathed in the soft glow of the nightlight. He seemed to understand the weight of what had just happened, his tail wagging in slow, deliberate movements. He had been there all along, watching, waiting, never leaving Noah's side. Ryan let out a shaky breath, his hand gripping Olivia's. "Liv, we need to call someone. His doctor, his physical therapist, someone needs to see this." But Olivia, still on her knees beside the crib, couldn't look away. Tears streamed down her face as she stroked Noah's soft cheek. "Not yet," she whispered, shaking her head. "Just let him be." Let's just be here with him." Ryan swallowed hard, then nodded. He dropped onto the floor beside Olivia, wrapping an arm around her as they both watched their son with awe and wonder. Noah shifted again, his fingers curling against Milo's soft fur. The puppy pressed closer, his warm brown eyes locked onto the baby's. It was as if he had known all along that this moment would come, that Noah just needed time. Then, to their complete disbelief, Noah made a sound. A soft, breathy coo, quiet, but unmistakable. Olivia gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "Oh my God!" she whispered. "Ryan, did you hear that?" Ryan's eyes were wide, his body frozen. "I heard it," he breathed. "Liv, he just made a sound." Noah's eyes fluttered open, their deep brown depths sleepy yet filled with something they hadn't seen in months, awareness. Recognition. His gaze shifted from his parents to Milo, his tiny fingers flexing again before reaching, however weakly, toward the puppy. Milo let out an excited bark, nudging his nose against Noah's hand as if encouraging him to keep going. And then, as if responding to the puppy's energy, Noah did something he hadn't done in so long it felt like a lifetime. He smiled. It was small, barely more than a hint of expression, but it was there. A smile. A sign of life, of connection, of something waking up inside him that had been dormant for far too long. Olivia sobbed openly now, pressing her forehead to Ryan's shoulder as joy and relief consumed her. "He's here," she cried. "Ryan, he's really here." Ryan reached for Noah's hand, his fingers trembling as he stroked the baby's tiny palm. "Hey, buddy," he choked out, his voice thick with emotion. "We've missed you so much." Noah blinked slowly, his tiny lips parting as if he wanted to say something, to respond in some way. His legs shifted again beneath the blanket, the movement slow but steady. Milo let out another soft bark and wagged his tail even harder, his excitement filling the room. Olivia reached out and ran a shaking hand over the puppy's head. "You did this, Milo," she murmured, barely able to believe what was happening. "You never gave up on him." Ryan wiped his face with his free hand, exhaling a laugh that was equal parts relief and disbelief. "Liv, this changes everything." And he was right. The following days passed in a blur of cautious hope and overwhelming joy. Olivia and Ryan took turns calling Noah's doctors, relaying what had happened, barely able to get the words out through their excitement. Appointments were scheduled immediately, specialists eager to assess what they were calling an unprecedented recovery. But Olivia and Ryan didn't need a doctor to tell them what they already knew. Their son was fighting his way back, and it had started with Milo. Noah continued to move more each day. His fingers grasped tighter when Olivia or Ryan held his hand. His legs twitched more frequently, sometimes strong enough to make the blanket ripple. And every time he made progress, Milo was there, encouraging him, watching over him, celebrating each tiny victory with joyful barks and wagging tail. One afternoon, Olivia sat with Noah in the nursery, the baby nestled in her arms as she rocked him gently. Milo sat at her feet, his eyes never leaving Noah. She ran her fingers through the puppy's soft fur, her heart swelling with gratitude. "You're his guardian angel, you know that," she whispered. Milo let out a soft huff, resting his head on her knee as if to say he already knew. That evening, as Ryan prepared dinner, Olivia played with Noah in his crib, gently wiggling his tiny fingers and toes, encouraging him to respond. "Come on, baby," she murmured. "Show me what you can do." Noah gurgled, his eyes twinkling with curiosity. He shifted slightly, his legs moving under the blanket with more control than before. Then, as Olivia watched in stunned disbelief, Noah reached for Milo again, his fingers extending toward the puppy with newfound determination. Milo, sensing the significance of the moment, scooted closer, pressing his soft fur against Noah's outstretched hand. And then, with all the strength he could muster, Noah grasped onto Milo's ear. Olivia gasped, her hand flying to her chest. "Ryan!" she called, her voice shaking with emotion. "Come here, hurry." Ryan ran in, his heart pounding. What happened?" Olivia turned to him, tears filling her eyes, a radiant smile lighting up her face. "He grabbed Milo," she whispered, her voice breaking. "He really grabbed him." Ryan knelt beside the crib, watching in awe as Noah's tiny fingers clutched at the puppy's soft fur. Milo stayed completely still, as if he knew just how important this moment was. And then, as if wanting to celebrate, Milo let out a happy bark and licked Noah's tiny fingers. Noah let out a giggle. A real, joyful, full-bodied giggle. Olivia and Ryan stared at each other in stunned silence before laughter bubbled from their own lips. It was a sound they hadn't heard in what felt like forever, a sound that filled every empty space in their hearts. Ryan reached for Olivia's hand, squeezing it tight. "Liv," he said, his voice breaking. "He's really coming back." Olivia nodded, her tears falling freely. "Yes," she whispered. "He is." And as Noah continued to hold on to Milo, his giggles filling the room, Olivia and Ryan knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning. The days following Noah's miraculous movements were filled with cautious optimism. Every morning, Olivia and Ryan awoke with a renewed sense of purpose, eager to see what new progress their son would make. The once quiet house was now filled with laughter, gasps of joy, and the excited barks of Milo, the golden retriever puppy who had never left Noah's side. Noah's physical therapy sessions became moments of celebration rather than frustration. Each session brought small victories, his fingers gripping more tightly, his legs pushing against the soft cushions of his crib, his arms lifting ever so slightly. His doctors were astounded by his progress. What had once seemed impossible was now happening before their eyes, a testament to resilience, love, and perhaps even a little bit of magic. One afternoon, as the sun filtered through the nursery window, Olivia sat on the floor with Noah on a soft blanket, Milo curled up beside them. She reached out her hands toward Noah, her eyes shimmering with encouragement. "Come on, sweetheart," she cooed. "Let's try again." Noah, with his newfound strength, lifted his arms toward his mother. His tiny fingers wiggled, determination shining in his dark eyes. Olivia felt her heart swell with pride. Just weeks ago, she had feared he might never move again. Now he was proving to her, every single day, that he was a fighter. Milo, sensing the importance of the moment, let out a soft bark and nuzzled against Noah's side. The baby giggled, his laugh filling the room like the sweetest melody. Then, in a moment that took Olivia's breath away, Noah reached toward Milo and placed his small hand on the puppy's fur, stroking it with an unsteady but purposeful motion. Tears welled in Olivia's eyes. "Ryan!" she called out, her voice breaking with emotion. "Come see this." Ryan rushed into the room, his heart pounding. The sight before him was one he would never forget. His son, once motionless, now reaching, moving, connecting. He dropped to his knees beside them, his hands shaking as he brushed a gentle hand over Noah's soft hair. "He's doing it, Liv," Ryan whispered. "He's really doing it." Milo let out another excited bark and wagged his tail furiously. It was as if he knew that he had played a role in this miracle, that his unwavering presence had somehow helped guide Noah back to them. That evening, after placing Noah in his crib, Olivia and Ryan sat together on the couch, exhaustion settling into their bones, but their hearts felt light. Ryan wrapped his arm around Olivia's shoulders and kissed the top of her head. "I can't believe how far he's come," Olivia murmured, her voice thick with emotion. "I was so scared, Ryan. I was so scared he'd never move again." Ryan exhaled slowly. "Me too. But look at him now. He's fighting. He's proving everyone wrong." Olivia looked toward the nursery, where Noah slept soundly, Milo curled up beside the crib as usual. A soft smile touched her lips. "I think Milo knew all along," she said quietly. "He never gave up on Noah." Ryan nodded, squeezing her hand. "He did. And neither did we." The following weeks were filled with even more milestones. Noah's grip grew stronger, his legs kicked with more force, and he even began attempting to sit up with assistance. Olivia and Ryan documented every moment, sending updates to family, friends, and the doctors who had once told them that progress was unlikely. One particularly sunny morning, as Olivia sat in the backyard with Noah nestled in her lap, Milo bounded across the grass, his golden fur gleaming in the light. Noah watched with wide, fascinated eyes, his tiny hands twitching with excitement. Then, as if drawn by an unseen force, Noah pushed against Olivia's arms, trying to move toward Milo. Olivia gasped, her breath catching in her throat. She steadied him but didn't stop him. She wanted to see what he could do. Milo trotted closer, sensing the change in Noah's energy. He sat patiently, watching, waiting. And then, with all the strength he could muster, Noah reached out and touched Milo's nose. A delighted giggle escaped his lips as the puppy licked his tiny fingers. It was a moment so pure, so beautiful, that Olivia felt tears spill down her cheeks. Ryan, who had been watching from the patio, rushed over and knelt beside them. "Liv," he breathed. "Did he just—" "Yes," Olivia whispered, her voice trembling. "He moved toward him." Ryan let out a joyful laugh, running a hand through his hair. "That's it. That's progress." Milo barked in excitement, his tail wagging wildly. He nudged Noah gently, as if urging him to keep going, to keep fighting. And somehow, Noah seemed to understand. Day by day, Noah's movements became stronger. What had started as twitches turned into stretches, then into deliberate reaching, then into something even more incredible. One evening, as Olivia and Ryan played with Noah in the nursery, Milo standing watch as always, Noah did something that made time stand still. He rolled onto his stomach. Olivia gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Ryan's eyes were wide with disbelief and joy. "Noah," he whispered, kneeling beside him. "Buddy, you did it." Noah let out a soft coo, his tiny fingers grasping at the blanket beneath him. Then, as if determined to keep going, he pushed against the surface, his arms trembling with effort. Milo barked excitedly, hopping in small circles as if cheering Noah on. The baby laughed, a beautiful, heart-melting sound, and then tried again. And again. Ryan wiped his eyes, turning to Olivia. "He's coming back to us," he whispered. Olivia nodded, brushing away her own tears. "Yes," she whispered, smiling. "He is." The days that followed were filled with progress and hope. Each small victory was celebrated as if it were the biggest moment in the world, because, to them, it was. Noah was proving every doubt, every fear, every uncertainty wrong. And through it all, Milo was there, steadfast and devoted, as if he had always known that this day would come. As Olivia sat with Noah one evening, Milo curled up beside them, she gently stroked the puppy's soft fur. "You saved him," she whispered, emotion thick in her voice. "You saved all of us." Milo simply let out a contented sigh, as if he already knew. Sometimes, miracles don't come in grand, sweeping gestures. Sometimes, they come in the form of tiny hands reaching, in determined eyes blinking open, in the gentle encouragement of a devoted friend. And sometimes, miracles have 4 legs and a wagging tail. No matter what struggles you face, no matter how hopeless things may seem, never stop believing in love, in kindness, and in the power of the unexpected. Because sometimes, the smallest acts of love create the biggest miracles.